Good morning. Going through the list of sponsors, I thought this was going to be a festival which would last 365 days. I haven't seen so many sponsors partnering one youth conference. Obviously, you all are doing something right. Entrepreneurship, to my mind, is a very tricky subject, especially in today's times when Anna Hazare turned entrepreneur last year. Ramdev is currently an entrepreneur as we speak. Most people in India's parliament are entrepreneurs. We've had one entrepreneur who's absconding from the law in our neighboring state, Haryana. So I don't know what entrepreneurship really means. I'm going to share my personal examples with you and talk about how I've seen life. It has made me very unpopular, which I don't care, because Winston Churchill said the only person you've got to be popular with is your wife. I'm straight and I'm a bachelor, so I really don't need anyone's popular polls. People say I'm obnoxious and arrogant. I am. I don't suffer fools. We have so many, and we have too many people being kind so they can keep suffering them. But let me share how I believe life should be and how my life was and is. I was born and raised in Calcutta, and I was taught three things: the value of learning, the value of honesty, and the value of being on time. Which is why I actually love what you guys did today. I don't accept speaking engagements in a hurry because they inevitably run late. I'm delighted you started 7 minutes earlier. What we were also taught in Calcutta was to say things as they are, to never lie, because lying always catches up with you. Now you might think what I'm telling you is a bit trite and not meant for college students, but we've all become ace bullshitters in some way or the other. We believe we can con our way through. You never can. You always get caught. And the ultimate prize in life is not about being successful, about having money, or about having too many girls by your arm. I think the most important lesson in life is to be able to sleep a good night's sleep without Valium or, smoking up or being on cocaine or heroin or whatever the hell you all use. Not you all, but you know who I'm referring to. I think what Calcutta also taught me was the virtues of scholarship. And there's a difference between knowledge and education. Education stops. Knowledge is unending. You stop education when you stop formally going to college or going to a skills institute. But I think what you continue is with your passion for reading. That, to my mind, is scholarship. Reading which is unfettered, reading which is borderless, reading which doesn't confine you into some silo or some tunnel. I would spend hours reading every day, and I still do. I would still say I go through about 4 to 5 books a week. Now that's an excessive amount of reading, but trust me, it's better than Googling the next hot chick after Veena Malik or something like that. It's far more relevant, it's far more interesting. The second thing when we were growing up in Calcutta was we were taught the art, and not the art as in taught, but we were told why it was important to be good at public speaking. I won my first motorcycle thanks to Delhi University, because there was a debate called the Mukherjee Memorial at St. Stephen's. And you know how Stephanians are, pretty stuck up until they're clobbered in a debate. And then everything else, falls by the wayside. So the Mukherjee Memorial, the Hindu College debate, these were debates that we took part in, and we enjoyed them because, again, there was something to do. It was cerebral, and it was about casting an opinion without actually hitting someone. Finally, I was also a great believer and still am. In fact, I'm doing a play once again on the 1st and 2nd of September, this time in Singapore. Theatre was an abiding passion. Now, I'm not telling you this because these are important things for each one of you to suddenly start doing, go out and debate and go out and do a play. But it's very important to do things that you're not expected to do. It's very important to follow a life that is not part of your curriculum. It's equally important to enjoy life, because all of us in our rush to get to the next milestone have stopped living through the contours of a joyous life. We've all become stressed out. We all want to grab the next milestone. We want to be competitive rather than honest. We want to do things at the cost of others rather than do things at the dint of our own strengths. And that, to my mind, is something that will weaken you as you go along. Whether it's good or bad, I don't care, because neither am I going to be your local guardian, or frankly do I care. But the reality is, this is how I'm seeing the youth change. So when people say we have a youth conclave, I think it's very important for you to understand that you can, like Rahul Gandhi, remain youthful for the rest of your life and be president of the Youth Congress, or you can actually decide that from youth you will get to adulthood at some stage in your life. I started working at a salary of 650 rupees in 1990. 650. When I came home and told my dad said, the chauffeur earns 4 times your salary. But again, the salary was not important. Today when you interview young people, the first thing they ask is, what is C2C? So I always tell them, I've heard B2B, I haven't heard C2C, which is cost to company. If you get your priorities wrong, you're going to be screwed for the rest of your life, because that's how you're going to judge the quality of your life by. And the quality of life is not judged by cost to company. It's by V2C, if at all you want to use, smart alecky alphabets. It's the value you provide to a company. And I started work with Ogilvy. I went around every conceivable market that you can imagine. Today when people talk about Bihar, in those days, it was undivided Bihar, not the province that I'm talking about, but where Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh were part of it. And when you went out, you saw the kind of poverty, but you also saw the kind of opportunity. It's another matter that our politicians frittered away that opportunity that Bihar has, and at that point in time seriously had, with all the natural resources that exist in Bihar. I then started, God was kind, work was hard, but I still must share this secret, which is pretty well known in corporate India. I never work after lunch, because I think that is meant for civilized people to either sleep or read or go for long walks. So I had a deal with Ogilvy as management trainee that I would work till 1 o'clock, but I wouldn't come back to the office after that. So the reason why I'm telling you these things are, myths exist about life. Life is not about how long you work. Life is about how smartly you work. Life is not about long hours. Life is about longer commitment. And I think that somehow we've kind of missed as far as life is concerned. To cut a long story short, I then joined ITC, was their youngest marketing manager, handling cigarette brands, launched Classic Miles, was told by the chairman at that time, a chap called Chug, that it won't work. Well, obviously he retired. The brand is now number 1 in that category. Then I joined Peregrine, which is an investment bank, because I wanted financial experience. And in 1996, along with Martin Sorrell, started Equus, which I gave up in 2006, which my brother now runs. I have nothing to do with it, because I was tired of meeting brand managers who didn't know head or tail of the businesses that they were responsible for. And in 2006, I was actually sitting at the Taj in Bombay, smoking a long cigar. In those days, the world was far more civilized. You could smoke indoors. Today, everyone gets upset. And I had retired, and Mr. Tata and Mr. Krishna Kumar were walking out, and they said, what the hell do you want to do? I said, I want to only consult, but with only chairman and CEOs, and that's what Counselage does. So we work across the world. It's a one-man company, and that's what we do. The reason why I do this is because it allows me to engage with some of the most formidable minds across the world. It also allows you to see a perspective that you and I often don't get to see. It also gives you the chance to spend more time doing the things that really interest you. Work must only be a passion. It can't be your lifetime. So I would have some suggestions to make, and we'll have a longer Q&A. My suggestions to you would be, think of the 3 things that you've always wanted to do and attempt even one of them. I finished my bucket list in 2008. So I'm living on extended joy time. Tomorrow, if I get run over by a stationary bus in Delhi, I have no regrets. Because the advantages are you've done everything that you wanted to do. You know, you've traveled the world, you've met interesting people. There's very little that you have funding your greed. And often what happens is we keep shifting the goalposts because of avarice, because we want more. There was a very interesting topic, a debating topic in IIM Calcutta, I think in 1990 timeline. So if you keep asking for things, if you keep needing things, they don't necessarily happen. What does happen is it builds a huge amount of distrust of the system in people's minds, which again is not necessary. The values that I look forward to, I don't care whether you have them or you don't have them, it's not relevant for everyone to have those values. I think we live in very troubled times. We live in times where almost every day there's something driven by an agenda which we may not have set. You look at the way our politics is going, you see the way our civil society movements are headed, they're not headed in the right space. I was the first person on the 9th of March last year in a signed article on the edit page of the HT saying that Anna Hazare would do himself no service by having Team Anna. There are no statues of committees in any parks. It's always about individuals. And the biggest tragedy was to have something called Team Anna, when you could have easily called it Team India. It was important to co-opt every Indian into that movement, as every Indian was, in a manner of speaking, co-opted. About Ramdev last year I said, this man is seeking immunity. Immunity from all the cases that the government has against him. You've got to say what you genuinely believe. You will get into trouble. I've been sued by ITC for 800 crores for tweeting about its chairman. I have no issues with that. That'll be a case that'll be fought, and it'll be fought on merit. Do I have enough dirt on the ITC chairman? Of course. But will I release it? No. Because you don't play games that way. You play games in a fair way. Will I be screwed for 800 crores? I don't have 800 crores. So if I go to Tihar and start losing weight, I really don't care. The other thing that I genuinely believe is that we've started crawling when asked to walk as a society, as people in industry. I'm a great personal believer that Narendra Modi is good for development. He may not be good for equality in society. But we still have very left-wing liberals who believe that everything about Narendra Modi is bad, and yet they ignore the fact that today's rulers were the ones who presided over the Sikh riots in 1984. And no one wants to say anything because it is politically incorrect. So I would urge you to do the following, and I'd stop after that. I'd urge you to say what your heart really tells you to. Whether you're romancing a girl, if you don't like her aroma, if you think she has body odor, tell her. She'll take care. I mean, the same goes for women. If you think your man is a cat, tell him. Be honest, because you will spend far too much of time trying to manage the lies or the web of deceit that you've erected. The second is, read until you die. We will never know enough about anything. We never will. That is why we are different from the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom is unilateral, it's linear. We've got too many exciting things happening in our lives. I've always said, science is not about exploration of other things. It is about the reinvention of man's mind. You're reconfiguring your mind to assimilate, to absorb, to sensitize yourself against various issues. Number 3, you must revel in the arts. See plays, smell the flowers, go for long walks. If you want to be a great marketing guy, spend hours observing people. Not just the pretty people, but observing people, observing their behavior. When was the last time you talked to your domestic help and actually asked them about problems in the villages? They will tell you about a real India more than any of these other jokers who pretend to be either economists or television anchors. Be extremely respectful of elders. I'm a bachelor, I'm delighted I live with my parents. I mean, my parents lived in Cal, I moved them to Delhi, I'm delighted. Now, it's not fashionable, but we are not birds that we eject out of the nests that our parents have created. There is a lot of wisdom, sagacity that you can get by talking to your parents. It's only your parents and your dog which will give you unconditional love. Everyone else will either want a Louis Vuitton or a Birkin or whatever the hell these bags are. You know, I'm only referring to them, but it's true for men as well. But respect them with passion, with a certain sense of genuineness, and learn from them. Don't have more than 5 friends. You can't. Once again, Churchill said, if you have 5 friends that you can count on your 5 fingers, it's a life well lived. Learn how to distinguish and differentiate between friends and acquaintances. Always be apolitical as far as you can. When I say apolitical, I'm not saying don't join a political movement. Of course, go ahead and kill yourself if you want to. But remember, in this country, you will never have an independent opinion if you join any political party. Because there is feudalism no matter where you go. Today, an Advani at 80 doesn't want to let go. They never do. I was asked in London last week at a speech, what do you think about India's democracy? And Mani Shankar Iyer was debating with me, so I said, look at this man. He lost the elections, he's now in Parliament as a nominated member. We're the only country which predicts future prime ministers, and we're supposed to be a democracy. So that's the reality of our politics. Be apolitical, but have a finite ideology. And my final point to you is, give, give, give until it hurts. Mother Teresa said this outstandingly in 1980 when she was addressing the United Nations. It's very important for us to share. It's important to look after people who are lesser privileged. They're not lesser privileged because they don't have the skills to be privileged. They're lesser privileged because they've been denied the opportunities to have those privileges. There is nothing more distasteful, disgusting, and disgraceful for India to deny the opportunity of education, of health to its children. There is nothing more derogatory, and it's a bloody farce that we worship all these goddesses when we abuse our women. I've said on Twitter yesterday that you must start executing molesters and rapists. But you know, we will pretend to be this fine democracy which has this robust judiciary, which must tolerate the kasabs and the jundals and now the kandas, and before that, how many thousands of others. You can't have a country which disabuses, which abuses its women and be throbbing. I was addressing the National Literacy Mission the other day and I said, my marketing logic tells me you educate a man, you educate one person. You educate a woman, you educate 4. Because she will make sure that her entire family imbibes the values of robust education. So that's all I have to say. Have a great life, smile more. Don't be stressed, you are going to die in the long run. So why do you want to rush towards, hell or heaven? I mean, hell's going to be more fun. In heaven you might, bump into Khrushchev or Yuri Gagarin or someone like that. Smile more, learn more, talk more, converse, dialogue more. Today the youth, you meet them, their only conversation was There's more to life than things being up or down. So, that's all I have to say. I'm no Ramdev or Arvind Kejriwal who's going to tell you how to change the life of India and how to change yourself. No one gives a shit. Gallup in 1999 ran a poll across the world and they said, people care for 3 things in this order. Number 1 for themselves, number 2 for the family, number 3 for the country. So that's not going to change in a hurry. I believe as someone who's risen from the ranks that it's an outstanding country we live in. It's a country which respects talent, which respects merit. We have a lot of rogues that we have to deal with who sit in Parliament and elsewhere. But that's the fun. There's never a dull moment in India. Obama and Americans and British have to worry about, pollution or... We have to worry about simple things. Will you get pinched on a bus this morning? So, life is far more fun being an Indian. And finally, being patriotic is not important. Being nationalistic is. And I'm saying, be proud of what you have. Don't, curse what you don't. Because it was never meant to be yours. Be happy with what you can do for others. Because that's what we are all about. We are not a society that can be built on individualism. We have to be a society that is built on unity. And if we can do that, your life would be very, very well lived. Thank you. Sure. So, shall I use this?
Thank you, Mr. Seth, for your words. I'm sure all of us can take something from them. I'd like to open the house to the question and answer round now.
Why do I criticize? Because there's nothing left to be happy about other than your question. Part one, why am I multi-skilled or no? Why have I got interest in other things? That's the way we were. That's the way many of us were brought up. We weren't brought up to be linear peacocks strutting about. And if you have a mind, which I hope you do, and if it is expansive enough, not expensive, you should learn a lot more. Who's ever told you that specialists are required? You're not going to be a plumber in your life. Plumbers, electricians are required to be specialists. In England, even today, the most valued professional is a general physician. It's not a cardiac surgeon. So, and you're right. Why do I have an opinion on everything? Because perhaps I read everything. B, perhaps I can articulate that. If you can, I'll tell Arnav, he'll invite you to the next show. But be ready to be mauled because you've got to take him on. I'm sorry, my answers are reasonably short.
Comment on the Indian judiciary.
I think the Supreme Court by and large is... We have never... Okay, there were the last two Chief Justices, not this one. The last two Chief Justices, certainly the last, was the most corrupt son of a bitch we've ever had. Pardon the French. Okay, the most corrupt. But here's the bloody tragedy. Now this fellow, whatever his name is, what's your name, my friend? Aluwalia? Anugrat. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'll call you Anu. Now Anu says, why do you criticize? Why don't you get your people to also criticize? No one has the balls because everyone's got an agenda. The fact is, this government knows that Balakrishnan was corrupt, that he made money hand over fist, and now what? Makes him the chairman of the National Human Rights Commission. Now here's where I'm different from the rest of your ilk. I was the first person, while he was Chief Justice, to say that on Pranoy's program. And Pranoy almost had a heart attack saying, we'll be shut down for contempt. We weren't. Because remember, Lord Buckner brilliantly said, Justice Warren Buckner brilliantly said that truth is the ultimate defense in contempt. That's the tragedy. So when you ask me about the judiciary, it is in a shambles at the lower level. I can tell you today, and we are on what, August the 11th? I will tell you today, every person who went to jail in Tihar for the 2G scam will be freed, will be acquitted honorably. I'm telling you this, and we will reconvene next year to see the mockery that you can make of the justice system. Because your evidence gathering is weak. Look at our situation. You have a rogue in the form of Kanda. The police knows they have to arrest him for questioning, and they allow him to flee. I will will leave you with one lasting thought, because I keep telling you about reading. Read Amartya Sen's fabulous book. It's not an economics, it's called The Idea of Justice. Read that, it will hopefully change your life. In that he argues very succinctly the difference between niti and nyaya. He says niti is process. So when you go to a court of law, you're following a process. But ultimately nyaya is what you're looking for. That's the benefit. And he argues that justice is ultimately all about fairness. So has the process that you've adopted in its ultimate analysis been fair? So many a time we adopt the process, but we are treated unfairly.
Good morning, sir. Sir, I am a great admirer of your unconventional way of thinking. As in, sir, you could have easily got placed in any of the multinationals or any of the things. But, sir, the thing that really lies within is that we are all looking for conventional jobs. We are all looking for some kind of job security or some kind of thing that makes us assured about our future. So, sir, is there always a lurking fear or a desire of failure that which prevents the youngsters from starting their own initiatives? So, in your mind, Council Arts India, and how should you motivate the youth to start own initiative to work on?
I would answer that question slightly unconventionally. It's not that the youth is afraid of failure. The youth is in too much of a bloody rush for success. That's the problem. You think you have an undeniable right. Each one of you who studies in SRCC wants to be Anshu Jain day after tomorrow. You won't get there. Neither will you become an Arun Jaitley in a hurry. So the point is, enjoy your life and let it happen when it has to happen. If it doesn't happen, you will know. You'll be perhaps teaching at some IIT, so you'll know it hasn't happened. So all I'm saying is, allow yourself the dignity of time. The tragedy is, everyone is in such a rush that A, they've stopped enjoying the moment. B, they've stopped analyzing what's really making them happy. And C, they don't even realize or recognize the value or the contributions they can make. So why would you want to do that? I wouldn't. And I'm sure Councilage could have failed. So what? That's why I do 10 things. I could have gone on and continued with theatre. So it's also important for you to have more interest than one. So in case you fail in one, you don't become a depressive maniac and jump off the sea link or jump into the Yamuna, which in any case is dry most of the time, so you won't even kill yourself.
Good afternoon, sir. As in, we've been talking past 1 year, the whole scenario, everyone's been talking about corruption, black money, booty scam, this scam, that scam. Leaving all that apart now, I think forget corruption, forget black money, because that is something that is not going to be eradicated from our economy for a very long period of time. Even I, as a matter of fact, I become a businessman. Somewhere I will have an urge of making a lot of black money, corrupting people. So that is something that cannot be eradicated. And then keeping on commenting on such things is not going to help. It's not taking us anywhere. Forget that. I'm an 19-year-old child. What I want to know is what's the way forward. Because I really want to see India change. Because I really want people to actually respect what India is. Not because of its economy or what people are doing, but actually what is actually happening. Equality is what I'm concerned about.
You shouldn't even be bothered about that. You should bother about how you live your life. The reason why I get away till now, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, by abusing the government or abusing anyone, is I live a very, very squeaky clean life and I'm happy doing it. You pay your taxes. I have never bribed anyone. I have beaten 2 income tax officers for which I have 2 FIRs filed against me in Calcutta. Because they wanted an amount in cash in order to give me an income tax refund check. This is how bloody tragic our lives are. You live your own life honorably. And it is utter rubbish that because you want to become a businessman, you have to be corrupt. As I said, we have a fantastic country. What you will endure is a significant amount of early pain. But what you will also then gain in the process is everlasting delight. You've got to decide on the trade-off. And again, as I mentioned, in my response to the earlier question, it's the kind of human being you are. I have never ever bribed any person on this planet. Never. I have never asked anyone for any help. I have not even asked for a bloody gas cylinder connection. When I started Equus, we were without telephone lines, without landlines for 6.5 months, but we had a lovely PCO, and that guy had a stunning daughter called Maithili, and I would just go to the PCO and hang there for the rest of the day, attempting to make calls, and in the meantime chatting up this hot babe. So, actually the government of India has done me a huge favor. So, you don't have to bribe. And it is an excuse of the lazy and the dishonorable to say, oh, but the system is like that. There is no system. You and I make the system. When you and I blame the judiciary, we are screwing up the judiciary. We are bribing politicians, we are sucking up to them. I've hit till date 3 politicians for stepping out of line in airport queues. Why? Because we're not scared. And that's why at times television helps. Because they are shit scared because of you for that reason. But the reality is, each one of us must, take cognizance. We don't allow ourselves to take a stand. And I'm not saying be critical, you take a fair, balanced stand. Like you rightly mentioned about corruption. Black money is not going to end. And who are the jokers? The BJP is supporting them. How the hell will they fight elections? Yeah, every goddamn election. An MLA's expense in Punjab costs 10 crores. Do you think they ever declare 10 crores? They declare 22 lakhs. Where's the rest of the money coming from? All these jokers sitting in the cabinet, most of them, when in their annual declaration they say we don't have a car. What the hell do they travel on? Or what do their ugly little brats travel in? On bicycles? So let's not fool each other. The reality is we're not willing to stand up and be counted. And if you are willing to stand up and be counted, you lead a very peaceful life. Look, ultimately it's not how much money you make. I'm sure the richest man in the country, or very many rich people, must be leading troubled nights, yeah. Saying, shit, tomorrow I have to manage that guy, tomorrow I have to manage this thing. Ghode bech ke so bhai, relax and sleep. You'll be much better off than all these rich guys. And my other, which I forgot to tell you in my opening remarks, don't be an Indian. Always hope your friends earn much, much more money. They work hard so that when they are working, you can enjoy their riches. Finally, we have women, man. I thought this was again gender biased.
Hello, sir. Sir, I would like to know your take on the current state of Indian media, especially in view of the way they've handled the Anna Hazare incidents and the Commonwealth Games scam also. I think they completely blew it up. So what is your take on that?
Look, I'm very fond of the Indian. See, everyone knew Sunny Leon. That is my trick question. Now if I ask them what is Draupadi's first cousin's name, none of you guys will know. I mean, neither do I, but it's just a trick question. Okay, last two. No, the man can keep his hand down. No, 1 minute. Here, just these two. Yeah. You all are fine gentlemen. You all must yield to women in more ways than one.
Morning, sir. Sir, okay, I can go to let some. There are two.
Yeah, 1 minute. The golden rule about Indian microphones is hold it a bit lower. No, yeah. Don't finger a mic. Now speak into it.
Okay, so.
Hold it here. Now go ahead.
Yes, so. No. Everybody is criticizing the government, but you come to a youth conference, go to a news channel and criticize.
No.
How does it help? How does that
On the contrary, then you don't either watch all the programs I do, or you have an opinion which is fine. Day before yesterday, I praised the government. qua Ramdev. I said, where the government has failed in actually communicating the remarkable good that this government has done.
What about the people who are not able to change India? Do you think there's hope for people who are not who do not have a political background, who actually teach the nation?
Of course. In fact, as I said in my closing remarks, I think we're a great country. And which is why I'm saying, don't only go and read a fantastic book by Sunil Khilnani called The Idea of India. Don't go for the stereotypical. See, I mentioned this day before yesterday on that Times Now thing. There are three kinds of citizens. The engaged, the enraged, and the indifferent. From about 1913 to about 1948, we were in engaged India because we were rallying around one single-minded cause, which was freedom from being colonized. From 1948 to about 1963, 64, Nehru died in 64. Till then we were an engaged but slightly enraged India. You remember the famous song which Sahid Ludhianvi wrote in Pyasa, which was a bab at Pandit Nehru. He says, "Kahan the wo waade?" So that time, then came the biggest destroyer of every institution that Indians held dear, Indira Gandhi. She destroyed every conceivable institution. We were then an indifferent country. When Manmohan Singh, under Narasimha Rao's leadership, came back as finance minister in 1901, and we actually unshackled ourselves of all the constraints, we became a reasonably engaged India again. We then again became enraged during the scam time. And what Anna Hazare did, to my mind, was fantastic. He made the young of India engage themselves, not with the stereotypical idea of India, but of being Indian. Which is another book you must read by Pawan Verma. It's called Being Indian. Which was a fantastic thing until we see more of this happening. Remember, I've always said this, we are a functioning democracy. You can't allow one hunger fast to be, followed by the other in the hope of preserving any form of democratic models. You're creating anarchy, and that's what we should avoid. No, last question to the lady. I'll answer you on the way.
Good morning, sir. So I have a really simple sort of question. We talk about reading, you read a lot, and you ran before reading. So I'm accustomed to it, economic books by partners and others. So any book which is perhaps your favorite or which comes to your mind, which has a lasting impression that you perhaps.
You want to change your life forever? Each one of you? And I mean it seriously, forever. It's going to take you 3 months from here, from the time we discuss it. Just read one compendium. It's called The Complete Works of William Shakespeare. And I'm not saying this facetiously. He is the finest psychologist the world has ever produced. The finest observer of consumer behavior that the world has ever produced. The finest literary movement that we've ever seen. It's easy, even today, whatever he says holds true. Look at Julius Caesar, for instance. The good is oft interred with the bones, the evil lives long after. Now you talked about the concept of India, right? And you said Indians. What does he say? The fault, dear Brutus, lies not in our stars but in ourselves. So I'm saying read just one complete works of Shakespeare. And within that I will flag 4 plays for you, which will give you an understanding of life. You must read Julius Caesar. Read the treachery of politics in Richard III. Read the masterful ways of the world in Merchant of Venice. And then end with the whole respect to elders, which I've talked to you about with King Lear. That's a life well lived. And can you imagine the next party you go out to and you have this dumb guy who says, "What's up?" And you say the fault, son, lies not in you, but in your parents, that they brought you up like stale bread. You'll never have these jerks coming after you ever again.
No venture is complete without a college dropout. And Mr. Albinder Dhinsa fills in this gap for one of the most popular online food portals in India, Zomato. Not exactly a college dropout, Mr. Dhinsa graduated from IIT Delhi and went on to pursue his MBA degree at Columbia Business School. He joined Zomato for a winter internship and never looked back. Today, he heads the international expansion branch of Zomato, and he's here to share with us his journey so far. We have a video right here.
So I'll actually start with sharing a little bit of an anecdote. I actually, yeah, no problem. So so Dipinder I met when we were both 16 and warming the benches at an NTSC camp, and he subsequently went on and founded Zomato. And when I was working as an investment banker in US, he basically said like, dude, you know, would you come and join us? At that time, I had a lot of doubts about Indian economy, whether the growth rate is going to stay up. But what eventually brought me back to India was the relationship that I had with Dipinder, as well as the other people in the management team at Zomato, who incidentally are all people that I met between the ages of 16 and 22. So, which kind of brings me to your demographic, is that this is a time when you're going to build some of the strongest relationships. This is a time when you're going to meet people that you're going to follow into, you know, a lot of big battles within your life, hopefully. This is where you build your support system. I agree with a lot of what Suhel said. One thing I don't agree with is that you can only have 5 friends. That would be a pretty sad life for all of us if you only had 5 friends, I guess. What was very important for me throughout this journey was, you know, people that I knew since I was maybe 18 years old are still people that I maybe talk to once every month. They're in different parts of the world. We all went and pursued our different journeys. But a lot of us came back, and, you know, a lot of us are trying to be entrepreneurs or are trying, you know, to rise within the ranks of corporate India. Some of them even went and started government service, which, by the way, for somebody who asked a question about civil services earlier, very noble profession to actually dedicate